chairs. That's what they're called. What do you sit in? She's sitting in the chairs, and she would take notes so well that like years later, I'd be able to say, hey Christina, what did I talk about, Camp Survive 6 years ago? She's like, oh, put a lot of her notes, and she would have like the talk, the whole thing like that is the outline that I wish I had, not the outline that I deserve. But if you're willing to warm up your hands, get your writing utensils out, something to write with, something to write on, and open your mind holes and open your heart holes, and give it up for Christina Sarina.
In other words, it's using the goods that we have freely in order to achieve excellence. It comes from a word which means moderation. It's the same word that we get from temper. So if you lose your temper, you're not temperate. You're over the edge, you're out of balance. The temperate person does not lose their temper when it's not right to be angry, because that's unreasonable. It's not good and it doesn't achieve excellence. But sometimes when we think of temperance, we think of it as the fun killer virtue. We think it means suppression or repression, that it's cowardly rather than passionate, or that it's just plain dull or boring. We act as if temperance is like having a big rock on our shoulders that keeps us doing fun things that we feel like we want to do. We think that it's just going to bed on time, or that it's just not watching too much TV. And this is part of temperance, but that's not the full picture. Because what temperance really is it frees us for excellence. Temperance allows you to live a life of joy, because when you're not out of order, when you're not watching too much TV, it allows you to do excellent, amazing things that will actually be joyful. I did a Google search of joy, and these are the images that came up. Joy is freedom. Temperance leads you to freedom, to excellence. So I'm going to tell you this talk. I have a new proposal for you. The temperance isn't the fun killer virtue, but it actually allows you to truly have fun. You might think I'm trying to pull something on you, like timing you to get you to do dishes or some other type of cleaning game, but no. So let's look at this more. How many of you watch Netflix or some type of TV? Okay, put your hands down. How many of you ever just say to yourself, just one more episode? Yeah. And then how many of you are tired the next day? Yeah, and then that next day, do you have as much fun? No, because you're tired. When you're tired, you can't live as fully. So temperance allows you to maintain your honor and your respect for yourself by rightly ordering your life. It allows you to be fully you. Now, Father Tony yesterday said that he believes in you. He believes that you're capable of great things. You're capable of being prudent. And I also believe that you're capable of being temperate, because I believe that you want to do something remarkable with your life. And I believe that you want to be someone remarkable. I know that you don't want to just be someone who spends your entire life binging on Netflix or YouTube videos. I know you want to do something excellent for God. So today I'm going to give you some tools to figure out how to do that. Now, we all have emotions, right? And some emotions are good, some emotions are bad. But the thing that we need to be careful of is how we use our emotions. The reason temperance is doing the right thing at the right time in the right way is because we're applying our emotions in the right way. Now, St. Dominic, whose feast day we celebrate today, go St. Dominic. He said that it's better to govern your passions, your emotions, than to be governed by them. In other words, it's better to be the hammer than the anvil. If you live up here, that that big metal thing is an anvil, and then you hit the anvil with a hammer in order to shape different types of metal. And you'd much rather be the hammer than the anvil. You want to be the one hitting rather than the one hit. You want to be, in other words, the windshield and not the bug. You want to be in control of your passions, your emotions. And as Father Mike said in his homily yesterday, when you're in control of your emotions, your power, your virtue, then you actually can live in an excellent way. So, temperance is also tied with prudence, which is why we're talking about it after prudence. Prudence helps you achieve the goal, right? And temperance helps you to know the right time, the right way, and the right thing. There was one summer when I was working in Ely as the assistant youth minister to David, who gave you a talk already. And early on, I wanted to get to know David, so I said, hey, I'll go on a run with you. But I don't run, so can it just be a short run? And he said, you can run. Anyone can run. It's all in your mind. If you wanted to right now, you could run a marathon. And if you know David, you know he's a marathon runner. So I was like, well, I don't know about that, but okay, I'll try running with you, but how about just like 3 miles? And he said, no, you can do 5. I was like, okay. So David and I ran 5 miles together, and he was just going along. It's really easy for him, this marathon runner, and I was like dying. And I kept saying to myself, it's in my mind, keep going. And we got done with this run. He was like, well, that was nice, it was pretty pleasant. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was the worst thing ever. And the next morning when I woke up, my first thought was literally, is there any way to get up without moving my legs? And then I got to daily mass, and I genuflected. And I was like, I can't get back up again. So I like held onto the pew and like craned myself back up, like I was 80 years old. And I said to David, this is not true. I cannot run a marathon. I cannot run 5 miles. And the thing is that what David and I forgot is that although it was prudent for him to run many miles because he had trained, and it was also temperate because he was doing a good thing at the right time in the right way, it was not prudent or temperate for me because I did not run. And so for me, it actually hurt my body. So even though I was doing a good thing, I was not doing it at the right time or the right way because I hadn't trained. So if I had allowed prudence to govern my temperance, then I wouldn't have been like grandma at church the next day. So then the rest of the summer, I slowly worked up 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles. I have not gotten past that. So yes, these are a dynamic duo. So the 3 puzzle pieces to temperance are displayed in the life of King David. Now, King David was the youngest of the sons of Jesse. And Jesse, when Samuel came to pick the next king, to anoint who would be the next king, Jesse brought his older sons, his strong older sons, to Samuel and said, may the Lord pick from one of these. But God didn't want to anoint any of them. And so Samuel said to Jesse, do you have any other sons? And Jesse said, I do. But he's the youngest and he's out tending the sheep. And David wasn't known as being this strong guy. So they send for David, and Samuel says, this is the one the Lord has chosen. And he anoints David. But he doesn't become king right away. And one day, his brothers were out fighting in a battle. And David's father said to him, go bring lunch to your brothers. So David took care of his duties at home and then went out to bring lunch to his brothers. But in the meantime, while David was at home, this big giant of a man, Goliath, had been taunting the Israelites for 40 days. Send your best man out to me. Send him, and I will fight him. And Goliath was certain that he would win. But the Israelites were terrified. So for 40 days they trembled in fear, while Goliath taunted them and their God. Then, when David came to camp to bring his brother's lunch, David heard Goliath's taunts. And he said, "Who dares to blaspheme the living God? Who dares to defy the armies of the living God?" And so he asked Saul if he can fight Goliath. So then David prays. And Goliath, when he comes out to meet Goliath, he just takes a single slingshot and 3 smooth stones. And Goliath laughs at him. It says he disdained him, for he was only a youth, ruddy and handsome in appearance. Then Goliath said, "Am I a dog, that you should come at me with sticks?" And he cursed David by his gods. Then David says, "You have come with sword and spear and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This very day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, into the hand of the armies of Israel. I will strike you down and cut off your head, so that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel, and that this assembly may know that the Lord does not save by sword and spear. For the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hand." Then David put his hand in his bag, took out a stone, slung it, and struck the Philistine on his forehead. The stone sank into his forehead, and he fell face down on the ground. So David, who trusted in God and who wanted to honor God, was able to kill Goliath with a single stone. This huge giant of a man, and he's just this tiny little guy. But it wasn't only because David trusted in God that he was able to defeat Goliath. Something that we often gloss over is that in a few chapters earlier, the Bible mentions that David had killed a bear and a lion. And when Saul called him into his service, the way David is described is a man of valor who is prudent in speech. So David was already building up these virtues within him. He was choosing to do the right thing at the right time in the right way. And this led him to be able to defeat the lion and the bear, to be a man of prudent speech, a man of valor. And the building of these virtues combined with this trust in God is what allowed him to beat Goliath. And God wants us to build virtues in our lives as well, so that we can be a paragon, a perfect example of virtue, like David was. Have you ever heard the phrase, "go big or go home"? Yeah. And when you watch the movies, it seems like they're always going big. Like the athletes are always winning the games, always charging ahead. And that makes sense, right? A movie where you watch the athletes sleep for 8 hours is really boring. But in real life, athletes have to train. Just like when Father Tony was talking about the Vikings yesterday. The college I went to, the athletes would train really hard. And the athletes were so dedicated to their training that often when I was walking back from studying at night, I would see the stadium lights on. The night before a big game, the players had to stay off campus in a separate place so that they would go to bed early while everyone else was having fun. They had to eat a special diet all the time, so there were no burgers, there were no pizza, special diet for the football players. Then before the game, they would go to Mass and get on their knees and pray for Mary's intercession before finally hitting the field to the cheers of 80,000 crazy fans. Then hopefully they would go big. But it takes temperance to be a good athlete. And there's a very fine line between being at the top of your game and at your breaking point. One example from my life when I was not temperate was I had practiced for a concert that I was supposed to play the violin in. And so I decided that the week leading up to the conference, I was going to practice many, many hours. And we were playing this really difficult symphony, so it was not easy. And I became so tense and so fatigued that while I was actually playing during the concert, my shoulder muscle ripped. And then I couldn't play for months after that, and it sometimes still hurts me. So if I had been temperate, I would have been able to play the music better, I wouldn't have a shoulder injury. Because I didn't do the right thing at the right time in the right way, I reached a breaking point. And I know many of you are athletes. Raise your hand if you play a sport or an instrument. Yeah, like, you know that temperance is important. You know that training is important. It's maybe not fun at the time you're training, but when you do it at the right time and the right way, then you're able to go big and maybe even win a state championship. So, let's look at these 3 parts a little bit more. A virtue is always doing something good. So even if you rob a bank at the right time and in the right way, it's still not temperance, because robbing a bank is wrong. Also, if you have a talent or ability, like Elsa in Frozen has the ability to make ice, if you don't use it to do the right thing, although you're using it at the right time and the right way for whatever your intention is, then it's still wrong. It's not temperance unless you're using the gifts that you've been given as something that is the right thing. Now the second puzzle piece on the road to happiness. You have to do things at the right time. Now, for example, if you go on a date and you say to the person that you're going on a date with for the first time, "I love you," you're gonna get a look like that, or worse. Because although "I love you" is a great phrase, it is the right thing to say if you love someone, it is not the right time to say "I love you" on the first date. Also, how many of you have ever participated in elementary marriages? Yeah, some of us. It was a big thing when I was in elementary school. We once married our teacher's assistant to a chair, which was an odd day. But elementary school marriages, when you just play, it's okay to just play about that. But if like you actually intended to get married in elementary school, it would not be the right time. Although marriage is a very good thing, and you could in elementary school say the vows in the right way, it's not the right time to get married. Also, for those of you who are close to high school, going into 9th grade and maybe even in middle school, you might feel the temptation to fit so much into your life and to cram so much study and sports and family things that you decide not to sleep. But this is really unwise, because those who don't get enough sleep, studies have shown actually live less years. And so when you sleep less, you don't gain time. You actually lose quality of life. And I see how bogged down teens can get when you don't have enough sleep. So memes say a lot memes tell the truth. So one should actually study the night before the exam, but they should also get sleep. Do the right thing at the right time in the right way. Okay, last one, for the right way. Do you recognize any of these guys? Yeah? Okay, so I have permission to tell this story from them. Many years ago, when I was co-leading a prayer team, I asked 3 of the guys to go get me firewood for the bonfire and to bring the wheelbarrow with them. but it is one of the top YouTube videos. It's been watched almost 3 billion times, which is almost half the population of the earth. So in case you haven't seen it yet, I'm going to show you a clip and then talk to you more about why this is relevant. This is Sugar by Maroon 5.
I relate. What you doing for you?
If you put that amount of views back to back, that spans 20,000 years, which would bring you back to the last ice age. That is a lot of time spent watching Sugar. And like I said, it's not the #1 video. There are videos that have way more views, but I couldn't show them because they're not appropriate. So if people are spending so much time just kind of on pleasure, why don't we spend equally as much, if not more, time on prayer? Now, the quarter of the world is Catholic, and if every Catholic prayed 8 minutes a day, just on one day, we would equal the same amount of time. If every Catholic just once in their life prayed 8 minutes a day, that would span in power of prayer all the way back to the Ice Age. So imagine if every Catholic prayed 10 minutes a day, every day, for their entire life. That would be so much more, exponentially more. I don't even know how much time that would be. But think about how much power. Like I said, temperance frees us for excellence. So while it's good to sometimes have fun and watch videos like this, in some ways, some of the people in the video even displayed temperance with their joy at that dance. There are times when it's the right time and the right way to dance and to have fun. But there are other times when we need to put away the I guess more shallow, fun things, in order to do something deep, like connect with God, to spend time with our family, to study, to practice our sports, to live a life of balance and excellence. So, I challenge you to pray 10 minutes a day, your entire life. And we can have extreme weights, extreme excellence from that. Last thing on this video, the thing I like about comparing your own temperance to everyone else's, what they're doing, is that sometimes we feel like whether I'm virtuous, whether I'm temperate, only affects me and it doesn't affect anyone else. Like if I don't pray 10 minutes a day, it doesn't really matter. But the thing is that it does, because we're all part of the body of Christ. What you do with your time matters for the rest of us. St. Teresa of Avila said, "Unless you strive after the virtues and practice them, you will never grow to be more than dwarfs." And we don't want to be dwarfs. We want to be spiritual giants. So strive after the virtues and practice them. Temperance also means removing bad influences from our lives. When we have things around us that lead us away from temperance, maybe, for example, having a TV in your room, then you are more likely to fall into sin. Someone said yesterday, I think it was probably Tony, that if you are trying to give up candy, but you stare at a candy store for 20 minutes, you're more likely to eat the candy. It's the same with any temperate act. Now going back to David and his life, there was one day when he rose late. He was just kind of hanging out on the couch. His armies were out of battle, but he was home. He wasn't being temperate. And then after he finally decided to get up, he was walking around, and he sees the wife of another man. And he calls for her, takes her, and she becomes pregnant. Then David has her husband killed to cover his sin, and he takes her as his own, his wife. So one intemperate action of just lounging around led to a much deeper sin. And it's the same. It's the same for us. If we don't use temperance in the small things, like just getting up out of bed, it leads to bigger sins. And David, just like us, had to repent. And he lost, up to that point, it seemed like everything David did just turned to gold. Everything he did was good in God's sight. But at this point, he lost favor with God. And so he had to repent. In the same way, when we sin, we need to turn back to God, and he'll always forgive us. But the step before falling into the pit is to just remove it. Remove the bad influences in your life so you're not tempted to fall into them. For getting up on time, maybe put your alarm clock across the room. Simple little ways of helping you to overcome just going with whatever your emotions want you to. We need to make God the first and foremost person in our life. We need to focus our attention on him so that he's not just something on our coffee table, but actually our coffee table itself. So on Sunday mornings, go to Mass. If your coaches try to get you to put sports over going to Mass, tell them no. God comes first. And if enough of you do that, then just like with the video example, you and your families will have the power to change the culture so that we're able to preserve Sundays as a day for the Lord. God is more important. Lastly, and most importantly, temperance makes us like God. This is fundamentally why it's a virtue. All the virtues make us like God. And there's a time in my life where I had to learn a lesson about this. When I was a junior in college, I studied abroad in Rome, and I stayed with an Italian family in order to learn Italian from them and to teach the 3-year-old Ricardo English. And one night, Ricardo and I were home alone, and he wanted to have some fun. So I said, it's time for our English lesson. So I'll tell you what, I'll give you a treat. We'll watch your favorite movie, Mary Poppins, but we're going to watch it in English. Yeah, he had a fit. He was not happy. And there was no reasoning with little Ricardo. So finally, Ricardo yelled and screamed and ran out of the room. Next thing I knew, I heard the front door slam. And instantly, feared with fear and anger, I ran after Ricardo. And I picked this screaming, flailing little Roman child up. And I brought him back in the house, set him on his bed, and did my best to yell at him in Italian, so that he knew that he could never run away again. Could not do that. But Ricardo wouldn't listen. So I said, fine, you need to stay in your room the rest of this night. And I closed his door, and he just cried, and we did not have any sort of reconciliation. Then a couple weeks later, Ricardo was mad at his mom. So Ricardo once again escaped from the house and ran out onto the streets. And his mom ran after him, just like I did. when she found him wrapped around a pole. And rather than prying him off and picking him up like I had done, she just stood there, bent down, and gently said, "Facciamo pace? Do you want to make peace?" He shook his head no and continued crying. So she said again, "Facciamo pace? Do you want to make peace?" And after about 10 minutes of this, with her just saying over and over again, "Do you want to make peace?" Ricardo finally stopped crying. He stopped kicking and yelling. And he just nodded his head, stretched out his arms, and his mom took him into her arms. Then as she carried him inside, Ricardo said to her, "Ti adoro, Mama, non sei arrabbiata," which means, "I love you, Mom. You're not mad, are you?" And she just looked at him, the most tender eyes of a mother, and said, "No, I'm not mad. I forgive you. But tonight, there are no toys." So Ricardo understood. His toys went up on a top shelf that night. And from that day forward, he never ran away again. And I learned a huge lesson. Because I lost my temper, and it didn't do any good. He just ran away once again. But Beatrice did not lose her temper. She used temperance, she kept her emotions in check, and she was able to bring this child back into the home, back into a loving relationship with her, in which his life was changed, in that he never ran away again. Beatrice was like God in this example. Beatrice was like our God, who is a loving Father, who waits for us to come back. He runs after us, but then he waits for us to stretch out his arms so that we might become in relationship with him again. Temperance, as I said, makes us like God. We should strive to be temperate. And when you are temperate, when you become as close to God as you can, you will achieve that freedom for excellence, to do the right thing.